digital press is a community. First and foremost, it was built to be for video game collectors and people who like to play video games and hang on to them after they're done playing them. That really hasn't changed over all the years.
It's trying to keep things still with everything that's going on digitally, with everything that's going on now with your new console. You can't build anything like you built back when you had your Atari, your N64s, and that's where it's at right now.
There were many other activities you used to do here. It wasn't just, it wasn't also just the business of buying and selling old stuff, new stuff. We used to have what they call NAVA events on once a month. Local people would come and bring their own stuff to trade between each other. Sometimes they'd sell us stuff, sometimes we'd be buying things from them. It's a fixture, it's become a fixture in Clifton.
My buddy Kevin and I were looking for a way to get other people who were collecting video games aware that there was such a thing. So we created this little fanzine that we sent out to magazines. Lo and behold, there were people collecting video games out there. We had lots of people collecting and contributing information to us to the point where we were able to create a book. We did 7 editions of that book over the years. So in 2005, I quit corporate America and opened the store in Clifton, New Jersey.
Our reputation speaks for itself. We've been here 15 years. We own one of the second biggest museums in the United States.
I tell people, and I try to encourage my employees to treat the place as if it's the Disney World of video game stores. You'll walk in, thinking one thing and leaving a little bit happier.
Places like GameStop, unless you have everything from your original purchase, they won't even consider looking at it. Some of their trade-in and I guess buyback policies, I think were a little too rigid to keep their business model going.
It doesn't matter how little the game is. The game can cost $3.99 and we will make sure you leave here with a clean game. Your game is resurfaced, which is stuff you don't get everywhere. They think, hey, $3.99, here goes a scratch game.
You're greeted at the door with a friendly hello, and that's it. They're not going to bother you unless you ask a question or unless you look like you need help. There's arcade machines in there, which you will not find in a GameStop. There is a little museum, which you don't get at GameStop. They don't care about history in most retail stores. They're selling you something. GameStop is not going to buy anything that's older than, however many years old. And I know their policy constantly changes, but ours never has. We've always bought anything that's video game related at any point in history. The way that I handle the ebb and flow of the popularity of games, but I would use the example of the Atari 2600. I have way too many of them. And in cases like that, where I've become inundated with something I know I can't move in the store, that's when that stuff goes on eBay. And we typically will put them in bundles too. So in order to sell that Pac-Man, you will also get Superman and Space Invaders and so on, like a whole bunch of games that I have a lot of in a lot. Now, I'm seeing a pretty big run on Wii and Nintendo DS games, which, like a lot of things over the years, I would say at one point I had so many of them that we almost stopped buying them. I've had my employees say, please, can we stop taking PlayStation 2s? And I would tell them, someday people are going to be looking for these. That day has come, by the way.
Everyone has gone crazy. We have no more PS3s to sell. I think we have one left in the house. There's sometimes they'll literally have been piled up on shelves downstairs for months. And with what I guess, I don't know, I'm not quite sure the thinking behind it, but for whatever reason, incredibly more popular now.
It happens all the time, but it's all about, if you keep, we work in trade-ins, we're always very fair. You keep your guests happy, and they're always bringing different things. It's all about being stocked with everything, because you have to cater to everybody, not just one group.
In my earlier days, I actually used to go through a great deal of pain and sometimes even a loss of money, because I would search for these things in some sort of a value on eBay, or even where I live locally, I would hit flea markets and garage sales, kind of the things that I used to do before I even opened up the store. but I wasn't making any money on it. And you have to run a business like this as a businessman. You can't run it as a fan. So now what happens is I do go through periods where you may not find a Super Nintendo in my store. You may not find a Mario game in my store. It's happened before. It doesn't happen often because we're a pretty busy hub, but it does happen. There has never been a risk of closing the store. And I've known that since the day I opened it, that it wasn't going to go on forever. But I see at least another 5 years.
On a week, I would say we're averaging, even with, there are times we still have to lock the door because we reach capacity, easily a couple hundred people a week, at least.
We're like a family here. This is one of the best jobs I've had in a while. We get things that other stores don't. For example, we recently got a jacket, which was awesome, from 1998 that was only given to the PlayStation developers that year. My boss had the privilege of creating a whole museum with a friend.
I met the editor of Tips and Tricks at a convention that we were at as Digital Press. And the museum likewise. Would that have happened without Digital Press? It might have. In the annals of time, they'll look back and say, well, it was that meeting that finally created the first video game museum in the US. There have been a lot of iconic moments in that store in the almost 16 years that we've been there. So Practical Jokers hosted one of their shows in our store, which was kind of fun. It was fun being in the background and watching the show after it was done. Like saying, oh, there's me back there at the register. One of them, I guess it was Joe, had said that he had an Atari 2600 and it didn't work anymore. And I said to him, bring it in or ship it to me and we'll fix it for you. It never shipped it. There was also a Capital One What's in Your Wallet commercial where we closed for 2 days and they brought in this big crew of guys. These guys were pros. They moved things out and back in and everything went back to exactly the way it was. And the commercial's awesome. James, the angry video game Rolf. He's been in the store a couple of times, but we did one pretty big event with him where there were so many people that they were lined up 2 blocks down the road to get in. But he was great. He stayed until every single one of those people came in and signed, and he was able to sign their stuff. So there have been a lot of great moments, but those are some of the highlights for me.
The future's looking bright. We've been here 15 years. We're working on another 5 years. You have new consoles coming out. You have the war between digital, non-digital.
Things like Game Pass and online games that you can download have been around long enough to make me think that I don't think hard copy games are going anywhere soon.
There's this slowly downturned curve of interest in physical media for video games. This can go 2 ways. It could go the route of almost every town or area has a place that you can go to buy music. And if you're the best one or the only one in a certain area, you can probably survive. And maybe you can thrive in that situation as well. That I don't know. The other way is we just close. The store is actually a franchise right now. So it's not heading in the direction of we just close. Leo, who was running my store while I was in Texas, when I came back, opened his own store. And his store may very well be the future of digital press. Maybe I retire in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and Leo's store stays open for much longer. And maybe Leo then has a protege that wants to open a store and digital press continues in another direction.
We've been here 15 years. I don't see us going anywhere in the immediate future. I know I'm not.
So at the end of the day, physical is always on top, and this is why we're always going to be here.
I don't really know which path it's going to head down, but I'm enjoying that ride down the path either way.